You guys, one of Britney Spears' former employees is breaking his silence on what he saw backstage during the Vegas residency. And yes, he did sign an NDA. No, he does not care. Let's get into it. After Britney's audio is posted to YouTube, he goes, "I want to add to your story from another point of view. I worked backstage at your shows in Planet Hollywood from February 2016 to last New Year's Eve show. I signed the NDA, but F it. I don't honor people who suppress human rights, if I may. Being military, I was chosen to replace an older gent named Barry that was retiring. During overlap learning the backstage duties on a J-Lo performance night and being the type of gay Britney fan that would create fantasy set lists, naturally I inquired about your show. He told me about the required NDA, how structured it was, and how Eden's crew was. By this time, the mystique and suspicion of the conservatorship was already public taboo. Thus, being a fan, I wanted to casually extract info. Barry told me that Eden's team would utilize him from time to time to stand guard at your hotel room door, given he was retired LVPD. I asked why your door had to be guarded 24/7. His response, to make sure she doesn't run away. Why? Is she not allowed to go about freely on her own? I asked. The dad doesn't want that. She's tried to run before. She might leave and not come back. How depressing. That sounds like a hostage situation to me, like she's being held captive, I said honestly. He went on to say you weren't okay mentally, but just hearing that ish, I knew things weren't right. My first night backstage at your show was April 6, 2016. Prior to going backstage, I'm walking through the then Access Theater lobby. I know your orbit intimately from press. I see Larry Rudolph and cordially say, "Hello, sir," as I pass him. Doesn't acknowledge my existence even slightly. Noted mother effer. I go backstage where CSC security sits and Joe. Their senior member has me sign the NDA that presumably he'd later give to Robin. Like your perfume, I'm quite curious, but also I take my job serious and can't blow this opportunity I've been given to peek behind the curtain. Having already hovered around J-Lo and my BSB homies, if you need validation of my story, ask one of them, as I personally guarded their dressing room. I disguise my excitement by looking happy and thoroughly doing the job. I see your dad and Robin in the office together often. Larry comes and goes periodically, going between VIP to watch and back in the office. Nothing major happens, but the atmosphere is very on edge and almost conspiratorial to me without knowing why. I'm later asked to aid with meet and greets. Over time, I'm upgraded to doing backstage tours with Felicia. My boss can't stand her southern optimism, so I'm more than glad to. She talks lovingly of you, glows with pride at your optimism to be engaged in construction of your costumes aided by Tish, and tells stories of quick change. Through this time, I pass your dad, who always looked like someone smeared a dirty Sanchez of his own-ish stink across his upper lip, making him sneer in disgust. Politely, I say hi, sir, to him. Gives me the Rudolph treatment. Noted mother effer. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to continue this in part 2, where he talks about seeing Britney, seeing what happened backstage, and Sam as well. Part 2 of Britney's former employee speaking up about what he saw backstage during the Vegas residency. Let's get into it. In part 1, he just talks about getting the job, how he's super excited, but he's not trying to show it, and how he's been upgraded to do backstage tours with Felicia, how he sees her dad and manager go in and out, and this is where we left off, so let's continue. Robin, to her credit, was always polite and offered passing salutations, but unbeknownst to me at the time, her shady behind was funneling out your cash with her snake associate, Lou Taylor. Our paths crossed numerous times as I stand by the counter where you enter to do prayer. Every time, you're flanked by Eden and his other guys, the security. Robin and your dad follow. I suppress my inner gay, wanting to empower you by telling you to slay, but I know I will be canned ASAP if I do. I shamefully stay quiet. You always gave 1000% most nights, but you're not you as we once knew you to be. I remember one night I watch you enter the clamshell, lean against the pole after ponytailing your hair. Our eyes meet and stay locked momentarily. I look away, but I felt your sadness. It weighed on me. And like you said, victimization was what I could see. You were dating Sam at the time. However, your father treated him like an outsider, seldom ever giving him credentials to come backstage freely. So my boss has to escort him every time he goes from theater to backstage. Odd given Sam is in shape and my boss is in his late 60s. I ask Fee and my boss about your dad. Fee doesn't outright tell me that he basically limited her time with you and that it hurts her, but I read body language and feel energy. My boss, he was complicit and lacks human empathy, so he says Jamie runs the show because she's too crazy on her own. It was always the she's crazy nonsense that they love to run with. But let's continue. Somewhere around maybe the third to last show, I witness you have a break in the ish you've been putting up with. It's right before every time when you are to get into your wings. Eff it then, I'm not going on, I'm effing leaving, you shout irritably as you come walking off stage. You act as though you're going to go up to your dressing room, but you don't, pivoting instead back to quick change. Either your hair or makeup girl shouts, "Get Jamie." As I turned to see Robin run into the production office, then Jamie come angrily stomping and into your quick change. The wings go up and out without you in them. My boss yells at me, telling me to make all our guys take a break. As I go inform my coworkers, I hear you re-enter the stage to cheers and applause, and your dad exits the stage, looking more irate than usual. I'm surprised no videos are on YouTube. I forgot to discuss your brother, Brian. Girl. First off, I can only surmise that Brian got his Caesar's job because your dad made it a contractual obligation as part of them signing you. If I'm wrong, but through top tier connections, when you were going to MGM Park, Brian said he was going to be in a high position there. Know this ugly truth. While you were barricaded by bodyguards, keeping you hostage in your hotel suite, your brother was out partying with some of your concert collected busty female fans that he'd sometimes bring back upstairs in the theater to mess around with. More disturbing to me, some were Britney wannabes, like no joke. More in part 3. Britney Spears' former employee speaking out about what he saw backstage at the Vegas residency despite signing an NDA, part 3. I left off where he's talking about her brother Brian and how he would go out late at night and hook up with girls that were like Britney wannabes while she was held hostage in her room with security. More disturbing to me, some were Britney wannabes, like no joke. I'll never forget that ish because I found it in poor taste, knowing all I knew prior to witnessing that. You once saying Vegas brought the player out of you, it very much did your brother, and your dad was complicit with that. Whether you read this or not, shrug, but I know firsthand you're airing truths, and the courts should know a multifaceted view of just how much your entire family infringed upon your human rights. Church on Sunday ain't enough to absolve that level of greed, honey. From my unique perspective, you, Queen, are the utmost definition of strength. Many Marines couldn't endure that ish. I'm beyond happy you had Sam. Most guys wouldn't stay in that situation because your dad treated him like a villain. My story is only a fraction of what others saw. I often hypothesize that you deliberately tried sabotaging your own show because I know the rebel mentality. Fans made videos about their meet and greet experience. Many would bitch at us after, given we were pushing them through the hall for 3 minutes that cost them $2,500, having felt slighted. Others saying you were rude to them. They can all get over themselves now though, because knowing your point of view, being even a small part of that feels like being party to some human trafficking ring. 2013 to 2017, quantify that period alone. I'm in awe of your mental fortitude. As a fan, I'm glad you aided in your rediscovery of your creative passion. With these wounds, my warrior, you empower the souls of everyone who is oppressed. Seeing that fire in your eyes again is like watching a phoenix born from ash, and that's mesmerizing. But it's your happiness to be free, dance free, love free. That's what truly warms my heart and soul. With love from every fiber of my being, Dennis. That was a lot. It was really sad hearing how many times Britney has tried to escape and that the security viewed her as crazy and that's why they were doing their job. That truly broke my heart hearing that. I hope that Jamie, Lou Taylor, Robin, all of them allegedly who were involved go to jail and get the punishment that they deserve. I hope more people speak up and come forward and break their NDA because keeping this silent is not worth it. It is interesting to see what he said about Sam, how her dad actually did not like him and wouldn't give him access backstage. So I'm trying to warm up to the idea of Sam. It's going to take me a minute. I don't know. And I don't know. I don't want to talk about Sam because I don't know. To me, I think probably the most heartbreaking part of that was when he said he locked eyes with her and saw the sadness in her and how she tried to escape her own show while it was still on and couldn't even like get away for 2 seconds without them shouting to get her father. Everything that he said is probably not even 1% of what she went through.